What's up? What's up? What's up? We welcome y'all to Deeper in the Cut. Today, you have here D'Angelo Smith and
and Terrence Hobson.
the podcast host of Deeper in the Cut. And today we have as a guest in the person of Marcel Brown. Come on, y'all, give it
Yeah.
up for Marcel
What's
Brown.
up,
Fellas,
Mr.
what up?
Hey,
What up?
Mr.
What up? What
Brown?
up?
We
What up?
appreciate him coming in on today, the podcast extraordinaire. We think we're appreciative of you coming in on our show today.
Yeah.
We see that you are have been doing podcasting for a while. Is there anything that what advice would you offer to people that are just starting off to do a podcast?
Oh man, that's a great question. And so you said podcast extraordinary, and I was looking around trying to figure out who you was talking about because that definitely ain't me. But I've been
Yeah.
working, man. If there's one thing I can give as advice, it would be to just put the content out. Don't expect perfection when you first start out. The best thing that you can do is just keep going. If you don't have to have a backdrop. You know, we worked up to this backdrop back
Right,
here.
right,
We worked up to this mic.
right.
Now you got to put the work in and gather the requirements to put out quality content. But as long as you had a great idea, just turn your phone on if you have to and get this
Absolutely.
content out here. It's free to create a YouTube channel. There are multiple sources out here that will put your podcast on audio platforms all at once. You just got to do the research, but more importantly, just put the stuff out, man, and don't even wait. Put it out.
That's
Sounds
awesome.
good. Sounds good. That just sounds just like something that will be helpful because
Wow.
sometimes you do get that what we call writer's block
Yeah.
or thinking block, and sometimes you get a little afraid. Hobson, you got anything for him?
Man, in business, I always like to know, like, what's the drive, like your motor.
Yeah.
Like we put out content all the time, and we talk to and encourage other entrepreneurs around us that's already on that level. But speak to a person that is thinking about diving into entrepreneurship for the first time. Like, what's that motor? Like, we have big dreams, but what's fueling that dream? You know what I mean? Like, what does that take? What does that look like for the beginner in entrepreneurship?
That's dope. So it's funny. I do these prayer walks when I do my cardio in the morning. I jog a mile and then I walk a mile, and that's when I tend to hear from God, and He give me different things. And
Wow.
the conversation I was having with him on Friday was that emotion will get you to commit to something, but it won't help you sustain that commitment.
Right.
That's
So,
right.
so if you're gonna dive in, you got to make sure that it is an emotion that's gonna keep you. I don't mind emotion leading you to finally making that jump, to jumping off the bridge, to jumping off the cliff. I don't mind emotion triggering you, right?
That's right.
But you gotta have some type of set of values, principles, something that's a big why to keep you sustained in those days that you don't feel like it. Like for me,
Ooh,
I've always been super creative. But I feel like when my relationship with God started to strengthen, that's when I truly started to sustain these zones, right? And be locked into commitments that my creativity even couldn't keep me locked into them. I become a better businessman. I started to commit to spend the necessary finance his own business, and I know it's because I started to learn tithe and offering.
Yeah.
You put these, you sow financial seeds, and you reap a harvest from whatever you sow into.
huh.
So that's kind of how, if you're gonna dive in, it's got to be something bigger than yourself that's gonna keep you sustained in it. But if you allow emotion to trigger it, it's perfectly fine.
Got it.
Sound like to me you saying you need to go with God, man. That's what this go with
Yeah,
God.
yeah, I like that.
Go
Can't
with
go
God,
nowhere.
man.
I like that.
Try and go without God, man, because
Yeah.
God gonna be the
That's
sustaining
huge,
piece.
man.
Yes,
It's gonna
sir.
push you when you don't feel like it.
Yes, sir.
That push from God is gonna be the difference maker between giving up or coming over and being an overcomer in the situation.
Yes,
Absolutely.
sir.
Last piece, though, I guess this will be the last question. I don't know, but
Okay.
talked about what you think that a person should do getting into it, and what would help to keep them sustained and drive and keep them persevering through it. But what would you say is a no within the confines of entrepreneurship in the podcast world? Like when you start talking about podcasting, what are some of the no-nos and don't do, stay away from to ensure success within this world of podcasting?
I got a couple things. The first thing is you cannot be closed-minded. You have to be open to collaboration because partnership is everything. You don't know everything. And if you're trying to do everything yourself, you'll burn out. So you got to be open to collaboration. You have to be.
Absolutely.
You got to be open to somebody simply coming along that may know something more than you, and you just simply handing it over to them as part of your process. And then
Yeah.
the other thing is definitely uh you know of not avoid pulling people along who don't have a passion for it in their heart.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
you could try to put people in positions that simply don't want to do it, but you believe in them more than they believe in themselves. But this is a business at the end of the day as well. This is
Absolutely.
your livelihood, your hard-earned money that goes into this dream. So if somebody comes along and they give you half effort because they simply don't have a passion for it, I blame you for letting the rest of the team down
Right.
because you are putting somebody in the wrong position. So
That's
That's
right.
big.
those would be mine.
That's big.
That's absolutely amazing, man.
That's
That's
big.
wonderful, man.
That is.
One last piece, man.
Right.
I'm not sure if it's the last piece, but I see you got this GMD on your shirt, man.
Yes, sir.
Something you representing, man. You representing something with that.
Yeah.
What is that? What could
So
that possibly mean?
so we got a podcast called God Made Dirt.
Told you podcast destroy. I told you. I
I
knew
know.
it. I
We
knew it.
already knew what lane you was in.
Man, it's the podcast where we have real conversations behind the curtain of religion. The stuff that the church is too religious to talk about and the world is too embarrassed. We
Yeah.
talk about it. That's what we say every show. Shout out to the leading lady BK. Shout out to the code breaker himself, Tarmel Daniels. Shout out to Money
Yeah.
Mike. You dig? And every Monday we drop in that episode. We actually got a new one we recording tonight. This episode is gonna be on domestic violence, man. We're gonna talk about it, and it's through the eyes of a believer. Sometimes people can get so religious they walk around in these bubbles and try to act like real issues
Yeah, you're right
don't
about that.
exist. But
That's true.
believers got to talk about the dirt, man. Domestic violence is out here, and believers, Christians, we have a
Yeah.
perspective on it as well, and it's not just all Bible thumping. We got to be real about it.
Absolutely.
Yes,
So,
sir.
but yeah, that's what GMD is. Get the
Yeah.
merch on ambassadorstudios.com.
Yeah.
know what I'm saying?
Let's go.
But yeah, GMD, man, I love it. It's all on us. We know.
I got you, man. I just got to hear one. I got one last question for you. I have
Okay.
one last question. So we all God made dirt, right?
Yeah.
That's a brand. That's a lifestyle. We understand what it means.
Yeah.
But for somebody who don't know what that means in layman's terms, like God took us from nothing and made us something.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like when you had the thought and the mindset to become an entrepreneur,
Yeah.
that wasn't really put out in the forefront of like your faith and things like that. You knew what you wanted to do and you got it done.
Yeah.
But for those who don't know how to do it, like when they don't really understand like what it takes to get to that point when the door is open,
Mm-hmm.
right? When you're able to see yourself successful,
Yeah.
right? But how do we maintain that once you finally make it? Once we go through hell and high water, right?
Yeah.
And we finally make it to that place of entrepreneurship where we can provide for our families and we can bridge those gaps from one entrepreneur to the next. What would be some advice that will sustain the new entrepreneur? How do you maintain your business?
By constantly trying to push the industry forward. Whatever industry it is that you're in, as long as you keep trying to set the trends and not follow them, you'll continue to thrive within that industry.
They
Gotcha.
You got to
Yeah.
constantly be forward thinking. If you try to follow the trends, you'll die when they die.
Yeah.
You'll die when they die. And I got a partner, man, and I don't want to say I leave the vision to him, but he's the visionary of the crew.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
our working chemistry is that he comes with that vision, and I have no problem helping him flesh that out. You get what I'm
That's
saying?
right.
And
That's what's
you
up.
Absolutely.
got to be honest with yourself, and that pride got to stay to the
Yeah.
side. Everybody got a role to play. You know what I'm saying? So it's about just not being prideful, but also trying to bring something to that industry that you're diving in. I can't stand a culture vulture at all.
Oh,
That's
man.
huge.
There are, man, to be honest with you, there are marijuana podcasts that I've learned from.
Yeah,
There are
absolutely.
sex podcasts that I've learned from. I've learned
Absolutely.
from different podcasts on how to the level that they dive into their industry and truly bring out the science in what they're doing. And so, you got to respect, the next person's craft as well. So,
Man, that's absolutely awesome, man.
That's
I
huge.
love to hear that piece about partnership because it's so vital to a working relationship being successful.
Yes,
I
sir.
always like to say you find somebody that completes you and not competes with you.
Hmm.
Because if you find somebody to complete you, you won't have to worry about ever have to fighting over what direction we need to go in. You work your area, I work my area, and we see a successful workmanship come out of our relationship. And that's why I teamed up with this guy, Terrence Hobson, because he completes the side that I don't have as Mr. Personality. I'm gonna make sure everything is in a structured sound, but we complete each other and we complete each other instead of compete with each other and
That's
respect each other's gift. And it's always good to hear another entrepreneur say that because a lot of times competing is what causes the collapse.
yep.
And the fact that you're willing to have working relationships with people to get success out of it, it works well together. And that's what Deeper Than the Cut will be talking about: building bridges, creating unity, and telling people you might be hurt, but you're not helpless.
That's huge. Deeper than the cut.
Deeper Than the Cut.